Nice. Can you share the link with Telegram?
Yeah.
Or maybe I can. I'll take care of it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to GPTuesday and Miami AI Hub's special event, where we are honored to be having Joe present today on just a wonderful presentation about agents and his framework with crewAI. And I want to just talk with you a little about what is GPTuesday. GPTuesday is a weekly AI meetup where we bring AI engineers, enthusiasts, and people just looking to learn more about AI together in one place so that we can all continuously learn from one another. And we are extremely honored to also be working with a joint venture with Miami AI Hub, where they also have a similar goal, which is to bring together the Miami AI community together in one place so that we can be just stronger together. I had a really special time. Yep, exactly right. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Borhan. He's a really awesome guy. He really reached out to me, and we decided we're going to bring our communities together for a very special event, and so that we can bring education to Miami and make Miami a special place in the world for the AI community, so that we can all learn. And we want to make sure that everyone learns from this place. And so, without further ado, I want to bring up Pata to the stage. Pata went ahead and met Joe at the engineering fair very recently. So thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Again, my name is Pata Dunbar. I'm from Atlanta, but living in Miami for 15 years. We actually met Joe about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It's been a blur. This is the after party of the AI World Fair, of course. I'm so happy that I introduced myself. I told you I'm from Miami. You're like, whoa, I'm gonna be there in 2 weeks. I was like, yes, I would love to have you speak at our local group. So I'm so happy for you to be here as a joint presentation.
Nice.
It's amazing to have you here. And without further ado, I just want to make sure that y'all learn about crewAI. They've been releasing a lot of new updates over the past week. So please, without further ado, give a round of applause.
Thank you. Hey there, everyone. First of all, this is such an amazing community. Like for me, like being here in Miami, the first time interacting with people that are actually building tech, I'm pretty blown away. So, well, I guess good afternoon. Come on, you can do better than that. Good afternoon. All right, there you go. I like it. That's so good. All right, so I'm gonna talk about a lot of stuff today. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be good. I think I'm gonna have a good time. I want to start with a number. 10,602,922. Over 10 million and a half. This is how many AI agents were executed with crewAI in the last 30 days. Woo! And I gotta say, this is crazy to me because this shows that this is real. This is not like something that is gonna happen. This is happening right now. People are using this. People are deploying these AI agents in production and getting value from that. As a matter of fact, we are doing a lot of that ourselves. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But for some of you, you might not know what are AI agents. How many people feel very confident that they understand what an AI agent is? Show of hands real quick. All right. So let's catch everyone up. Make sure that we get on the same page. You know ChatGPT, right? Great to create content. So good that almost seems to have reason, like common sense. You can ask it to choose between option A or option B, going left or going right or up and down, and it's going to choose an option reasonably because it was trained on so much text that kind of like has or infer common sense. And if you get these models to either chat with themselves or copy of them, then you can basically step away. You don't need to be in the room anymore, and they can take actions. You can give them a task and they can decide how to go about this task. Do they need to do research? Do they need to like query a database or sending an email or whatever it might be. And by then, an agent is born, and like it's completely autonomous. So, all right, you might be asking, Ray, now what? What that means to me, what that means to my business, my company, whatever I have been up to. Well, if you have been building any sort of automations, and most of us here have, you're probably familiar with automations that start very simple, right? You start with like, hey, I want to go from A to B, but then things starts to popping up, and so like, well, what happens if C happens? Well, then we do something else. Then what happens when D pops up, and that becomes its own thing. So it becomes very complex very fast, and this is how like headaches are born. Well, the cool thing with agents is that you don't need to care about the paths anymore. You just need to care about the options. So these agents can decide, and more importantly, in real time, like, all right, for this specific information, I might need to send an email. For this one, I might actually ping someone. Oh, for that one, I'm actually going to add it to HubSpot. So because of that common sense, that ability to choose between options and use tools and use and take actions, you don't need to draw all those lines, and you can react in real time. So, all right, we catch up on what AI agents is. Their anatomy is pretty straightforward if you look briefly. You have an LLM at the center, and then you have a task coming in, ability to call some tools, and then you get an output. And usually starts simple like that, but get very complex very quick. Because then you start to thinking about, well, now I need caching because I don't want my agents using the same tools over and over again and consuming credits on other platforms. Now I also want a memory, so this thing's got better over time, remembers what it did wrong, what it did right, so it doesn't like use those same tokens again and again. And then you're like, well, I need to onboard them. Like, how do I train them to do the right thing or the way that I expect them to do? And then things just keep going on and on. And this becomes very complex. And then you go one step further where you're like, all right, now I'm going to two of those agents to work together. And now they become this group that we call a crew. And then you have the same problems. You're like, well, now I want this caching to be shared. I want this memory to be shared among them. And I wanted the training set to be shared. So again, it just adds another like extra layer of complexity on how you orchestrated some of this. And you can go even one extra level, multiple crews working together, but we're not going to go there. The main difference here for building software and building apps is that in the past, it was everything very strongly typed. So you had a very good understanding of like, for my product or my app or my service or whatever I'm building, I know what data is coming in, I know what is happening with it, and I know what data is coming out. It's going to be a name and an email. I know it's going to check something on that email. If it's a Gmail, I know it's going to do something. So everything has strong types and very well-defined rules. But now, with AI apps in general and AI agents included, everything is fuzzy. You don't know what's coming in. The model is a black box. You don't know what's coming out. And honestly, it's great. There's a bunch of applications that can benefit this. Think about it. This is ChatGPT. You don't know what's coming in. Can be like a regular string, can be a cupcake recipe, or a CSV that someone copied and pasted. So you don't know what's coming in because humans are fuzzy. Then you don't know what is happening inside, but you know that what's going inside is pretty pleasing. The user really likes it. So there's a whole new application on how you're doing. And again, this is happening now. I know that I mentioned how many agents were executed, but we're getting between 100, at least every day, we get at least 100,000 crews executed. And these are real use cases. Are people that are consistently getting value every single day. All right, so I've been talking about crewAI. Not a lot of you might know about it. What is crewAI, what I'm talking about, and how you run these agents. So crewAI is a production-ready library that you can use to build these agents. It's open source, and you can use to orchestrate these multi-agents automations. And we're going to talk about what these automations are in a second. And you know what? I don't know necessarily like what is the dictionary definition of being production ready. I'm pretty sure that involves running over 10 million agents in the last month. So you can definitely do that. And thank you to the fact that we have been building crewAI as an open source and as a company, we got a lot of exposure to a lot of use cases. So we get to talk to a lot of companies that are building these things, that are deploying these things across the globe. Our first customer was a company from Pakistan. Our second one was an Australian company. Right now, we're working with a lot of the biggest corporations in the US. So we're getting a lot of exposure on like what they are doing and how they're building this. So I'm Joe. My name is kind of hard to pronounce. If you don't know Portuguese, that would be João. But because so many like sales meetings, I'm going for a Joe just to make it easier. And I'm all the way from Brazil. And I started this company because of my wife that is actually with me right there. She came to me one day and say like, hey, you know what? You're doing all this fancy stuff with AI. You should post about it. And I'm too lazy to create LinkedIn posts. So I created a crew that would create this LinkedIn post to me, and it worked like a charm. And it was so good that I got hooked. I was like, I want to create more agents, but I needed a framework, something that I could use over and over again. The whole problem is building this takes time, and it was around our anniversary. So my wife is not very happy with me looking at a computer while we were traveling and celebrating. And you can tell that I was having a lot of fun, but I couldn't get it out of my system. I had to do it. So I would wake up early before her and I would code my way while she was sleeping. And then things started to take off. We got a bunch of stars on GitHub. In no time, people started reaching out about using us. And with that became a lot of challenges, like first bugs and rabbit holes and hallucinations and tool errors. And I'm not gonna lie, things got crazy for a hot second there, but also a few great things came from that. We got a community, a bunch of people in GitHub, a bunch of people in Discord. Now it's almost 10,000 people in there. And I learned that we have a subreddit that I didn't even know. Someone created, and there's also a community in there. And these people start to helping each other. And even though we were getting a lot of these users, we had to find a way to scale. And that's how we became a company. We're like, all right, let's make this into a company so that we can move fast, so that we can help these users and we can help companies that wish to use this. But then how we do this? How do you compete on a market that is so hot and moving so fast? Well, we need agents. So that's what we did. We decided that we would lead by example. And I would say, well, what is the first thing that I need? We got this company going. Now I want to start simple. I want something that's simple, that works. And I said, marketing. I'm going to do a marketing crew, someone to help me put the word out there. So I put together a content creator specialist, a social media analyst, a senior content writer, and a chief content officer. I created these 4 agents. I put them together in a crew, and I said, this is my marketing crew. I'm going to give one very high-level rough idea in, and it might be something like, today in Miami, I got to meet this community of amazing people all over the globe, super diverse, and I have a lot of fun. And that's it. Then what these agents would do is they would search what other people are talking in social networks about Miami, about diversity and all that. Then they would search the internet and see if there's any news, what is happening around the community, what is happening around the area. And then they would look at my previous experiences. I put together like my resume and a bunch of life experiences that I had throughout my life. So it would look that as well. And then would come up with these amazing drafts that say like, today in Miami, it was super sunny. Remind me of when I was 4 years old and I fell from my bike and I got to meet and now that and now that. And it would be like super good. People would really like it. And we got like 10x more views with that. We would still take a pass on editing, make sure that it looks right, that it was solid, but make it like so much easier. And then word got out. People started coming to the website, more people, more interest, more companies. They're like, all right, we fixed the problem, but we created another. What do we do now? Well, more agents. So next step would be, what is the like highest impact that we can do after the marketing, but that is still low risk? And we did lead qualification. So how we can qualify leads as they now are coming into the website and filling up the form. So we created a lead qualification crew that had a lead analyst expert, industry research specialist, and a lead strategic planner. Then we wrap all those three into a crew, and it's like, hey, you're gonna get every lead response that comes your way, and you're gonna analyze the lead responses. You're gonna compare with our CRM data, see if there's any people that we are talking with already, people that are in ICP, people that are kind of like similar to this. And then you're also gonna do research on the industry, research on the person, everything that we can. And what we would get back is a series of things. One, we would have a score. So what is the score of this lead? And we would have a score not only for the lead, but for the person that we are talking in that company, for their use case, for how complex their use case was. So we could basically at a glance understand, is this someone that we should be talking or not? Then we would have a classification of their use case, like is this sales, is this marketing, is this operations, whatever it is, in a series of talking points. So like in 5 minutes from someone filling a form, I would jump into a call and say like, hey, by the way, I saw that you opened a new office in New Zealand. That's amazing. With the new AI initiative, you're doing great. In your use case, marketing is so good. Here's some examples on how you're doing it. And then we start to schedule the meetings with this crew. And I gotta say, work a little too well. We had a problem there where like too many meetings got scheduled back to back to back to back, and got crazy for a second. There was no lunchtime for us, but we talked with over 150 customers in like 2 weeks, and I learned so much. We get so much validation from roadmap, what we needed to build, and all these people and their use cases, and then we just kept doubling down. So with the marketing, with the lead qualification, if you use crewAI open source, it's an open source library. Anyone here can use it. All documentations is everything is written by an agent. We don't write docs anymore. So you have an agent that compares the code with the existing doc, finds like what is missing, and rewrites the missing parts, and it's so good. And we then kept one for email and more and more and more. And then a bunch of companies start signing up. So now we are working with some of these companies in here. Outcome, Havas, KPMG, K2, PwC, Carlyle. We're working with all these companies that has been super interesting. And if you don't trust these companies for whatever reason, well, you can hear from some of our investors. Barnash, the CTO of HubSpot, super excited that we are working with him. And even Jack Altman, another great guy that I'm loving to partner, such a nice guy. It's through their family fund called Out Capital. It's super good. And it has been a lot of interesting. And you also know other investors like Andrew Ying and all that. It has been super fun. But what AI agents can do for you, right? So like, all right, my company, what can you do for me? Like, where am I in this revolution or whatever you want to call this? Well, from talking from all these people, we realize that when you think about AI agent systems and automations, you're basically talking about early adopters and early majority at most. And the people that are in this like late segment there, they usually come asking to you like, well, what are the use cases? What are the use cases? What should I be building? And you can definitely like serve them, and you can talk to them, and you can show the examples and what other people have been using. But what we learned is that these people over there, they're cranking like those 10 million agents. They are the one that are running it. They have a very clear use case. They know what they want to build. They have a sense of urgency. They want to be first, and they are deploying and pushing these things online. A few of the distributions that we see between like all the companies, we now have like I think 24,000 people on the waiting list. So we did a crew help with do an analysis on the use cases that we have in there. A lot of it's operations. There's like some sales in there, then marketing, co-development, research, education, and then becomes more like a
about AI agents, automations, LLMs, how to apply AI into your business, into your day-to-day, I would say be an early adopter. It's definitely the place that you want to be right now if you want to get ahead. Don't wait for other people's use cases. That's what we hear from like some of those like early majority companies. Don't wait for that. Find out what is your use case. Start simple. Whatever you can do that is simple, something that has like has some impact, but you can commit to it, and then you expand slowly to low risk, high impact stuff. We ship fast, so we shipped a new version last week. So we're talking with Matt like in the conference, and we shipped a new version in the conference, and that was I think a week and a half ago or something. Since then, we shipped another 3 versions. There's a few features that you probably would be interested about. It's all open source again. One is now agents can do their own tools. So our agents now can do code execution. What that means is that all you gotta do is create an instance of the code interpreter to an automated coder line. Yes, I'm just kidding. We're not AutoGem or whatever you do out there. All you gotta do is just add a loud code execution that goes through. And this is a photo of Eduardo, the engineer of our team, that actually helped us do that. Now, you can also get more consistent results every time. Because LLMs, like, sometimes I got great answers, other times not so great. So how do we fix that? Well, we create the train or crew feature. It allows you to onboard your agents the same way that you would onboard new hires. So you tell them what they are doing wrong, what you want them to do right, and that becomes ingrained into their being. And they're going to basically do that way every time moving forward. And it's just like a simple CLI. You do crewAI train, and you say how many times you want to train it, and you're good to go. And we also want to make sure that we are a universal platform. So you can bring any third-party agents. You can use any LLM with crewAI. By the way, you can use Azure, Google, Grok, a local model. You can use something with Hugging Face. But now you can even bring your own agents. So you can bring a LangChain agent, you can bring a Lemma Index agent, and you can even bring an AutoGem agent. I don't know why you would do that, but hey, you can bring all those agents into a crew, and they would take benefits from all the features that the crew has. They're going to have memory, they're going to be able to delegate to each other, they're going to be able to use each other's tools, and you can do all this in there. And now that's available today. You can already use it. It's the open source. See there's a bunch of demos around, it's pretty chill. If you want to learn about crewAI and you're like just thinking about multi agents, I would say check out the course that I put together with Andrew. Andrew is such a nice guy. We had such a nice time with him, and the course was so good that he ended up becoming one of our angel ambassadors, and we're so glad to have it. If you want to know about that, you can go to learn.crewai.com and you can take that course. It's gonna be pretty cool. We are already working on a second one. But don't post about this online. But it's good. We're gonna probably shoot it on early September, so should come online in late September. But it's gonna be pretty cool. This time we're getting very practical around business use cases. We're gonna be bringing customers in to talk about the use cases and how they're doing this automation. It's gonna be very interesting. And all this is great in theory, right? We're talking about theory a lot, like how we're using and all that, but how do you bring these things into production, right? I'm sick of theory a little bit. So let's get things into production. And that's where we come with our enterprise solution that we call crewAI Plus. So you can do everything that I just said with the open source. That's good. What crewAI Plus offers is the ability for you to do it faster and bring it into production. So now you get those agents that you do in your terminal, you push them to GitHub, you select the repository, and they become an API within minutes, and you don't need to do any extra code. And I'm talking about private VPC with SSL, protected by a bearer token, and auto-scaling, everything that you need to connect these things into a production environment. And then you can basically click on those 3 dots, and you can export a React component right away if you want to. So now you have a UI that you can actually show a customer, you can show someone internally, and that already works. You can customize the CSS in case you want to look a little different. This is what it looks like by default, and you can customize it. And there is more. For anyone here that wants to get access to crewAI Plus, you can scan this QR code and basically put your name and email in there, and I'm going to give you access in the next probably 24 hours as soon as I can sit down
Woo!
and do it.
Woo!
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you all. Thank you for having me. I don't know if we have any questions. If you do, now is a great time. Right. And you can say it, I'm going to repeat it back so it shows the report.
Raise your hand
Thank
if you
you,
have
Joe,
questions.
for a fantastic presentation. So my question is this: you described agents as an LLM that also has access to tools as a single agent, right? What would you say is the added benefit of having a crew over just having a single agent, and why?
That's a great question. So he's saying like, hey, what is the benefit of me having multiple agents versus having one single agent? Well, what you learn, there's a few papers around that, but what we learned through experience is that when you have multiple agents, you get them to do role playing. Role playing makes a huge impact. If you're going ChatGPT, for example, and you ask it like, hey, give me an analysis on Tesla stock, you're gonna get like an okay answer. If you say you are a FINRA approved investor, give me an answer on analysis on Tesla stock, you're gonna have a way more complex answer. So that's the first thing. You can have these agents role playing. So you have like one agent is role playing as a financial analyzer. You have another one that's playing as a reporter writer. So that plays a role. The other thing is some people think, well, if one agent can hallucinate, by adding another agent, I'm doubling my opportunity to have hallucinations. But as a matter of fact, it's the opposite. What we find is usually the other agents correct and course correct what the first agent got wrong. And they say like, oh no, this data is not right. Like this is not the source, so let's not add that. So there's a few added benefits when you have that. Those are just a couple of them. But you have more resilient applications in general, and you have way more customizability that you can do.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, obviously they're bouncing the idea off each other, and then like what's the win criteria? What like gets them out of it?
So he asked about, hey, you have the agents bouncing ideas across each other. How would they get to a final answer? So there's actually a few different ways that you can configure a crew. You can say, hey, I want this crew to work sequentially. It's going to be a series of tasks, and agent 1 is going to do task 1, agent 2 is going to do task 2, and you can set it that way. And you can even block them from talking to each other. So they're going to work individually, and one task pursues to the next. But you can go, like, you have all the options to the other one, where you can say now you want them to be able to talk to each other and delegate work to each other and ask questions to each other. And you also can run some of the steps in parallel. So you can say, hey, I want this crew to be run 5 times. I want for each of those 5 times for tasks to be run in parallel. And then I want to find a task that kind of like groups the results together and give me a report. So you have a lot of lever that you can control and how you set it up. Usually, most of the people do either sequential or hierarchical. What that means is that usually it's one agent working after the other, and they can do some delegation, but they don't get into replicals. Or you can do hierarchical, where you have like a manager agent that delegates to one, and then gets the result back, reviews, make sure that it's good. If it's not, delegates back, at the point that it is good, and then moving to the next task. We have a few things in crewAI that we make sure that it doesn't get into replicals. One of them is forcing how many executions an agent can go through. And you have a parameter that you can use to set it up. So let's say that you say, hey, you can think about it 5 times, and then you've got to give me an answer. So we force that agent to give an answer like this. Then there's other things. You can set time of execution as well. It's like, hey, you have 3 minutes. So there's a few levers that we give you to make sure that you have more control.
I can have one follow-up. Are you working on a UI to put all that together?
We are working on a UI, and I have something locally that I can try to show. It's a UI. I don't love node systems. I think they're great for a screenshot, but they're confusing for the everyday Joe. So what we're doing is basically you chat and you get a crew. So you say, this is what I want my crew to do, and we create a crew for you over text. And then you can go to a flow, and you can customize it there. Just a second, there was someone first there.
I have a pretty basic question. So your sort of the orchestration of different bots, do you add that shared memory and shared knowledge pool for all of them? Is that a part of the framework that you provide? What are the elements or constructs of your framework provides?
Yes. So he's asking about like what are the elements from crewAI, the elements from this framework. So there's a few main classes. You have agents, you have tasks, you have crews that basically wrap those two together. And then for these agents, you have a shared memory. The memory is pretty complex. You have long-term memory, short-term memory, and entity memory. So entity memory is a memory that remembers across many executions the subject that it learned along the way. So let's say that in the process of running, your crew learns what is crewAI. That gets stored in memory, so it never has to learn this again. The short-term memory, it only leaves during a crew execution. So as the crew runs, it's gonna remember like what the first agent did, what the second agent did, and all that, so we can learn from that. The long-term memory, it lasts across many executions, and what happens is that by the end of the crew, they self-critique, they learn, and they store what they learn in this long-term memory. So they improve over time.
You can review all these retrospective meetings.
On the open source, it's a little harder, but on the crewAI Plus, you have a UI that you can look at that. Yeah.
It's basically a funnel of like, let's say, all the stuff that is business stuff, right? So you have your sales and marketing, your lead generation, yada yada, and then the business process to produce your products and the search. So you think this is gonna just stay in the marketing initially, or do you think you're gonna move? For example, I'm interested in sales engineers, where we don't have a simple product. We have there's like 100 optional modules, so you need to know how to configure and pick it and match. But it's not really a high, it's a lot of material, but it's not really difficult work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you think about it right now, the way that companies have done, like if you forget the word AI agents for a second, let's say that hey, this is like too much hype. I don't want to hear about AI agents. While we're talking about AI-powered automations, that is cross-vertical. Like marketing is not even the main use case. The main use case is internal processes automations. So if some of you might have worked in big corporations, we might have heard about the RPA, basically robotic automation. It's like how these companies do a lot of automations internally. And it's a big promise that was failed to be delivered. I think AI agents will deliver on the promises that RPA failed. So it's definitely across different industries now that. We have, for example, we talked today with EA, Electronic Arts. Their main use case is HR. So it's not even like sales or marketing. So it's definitely very much across different industries.
So there's been a lot of talk from the top names on super agents, and I forgot who it was that was talking about API might come from a mobile with agents. So awesome presentation. I haven't heard of you guys, so I'm super excited to learn more. And one of the things I was wondering is, just like CJ was asking really quickly, is if you have these different crew of agents, do you guys provide either either the prompting or the actual agents that could be the project manager for these different crews? Have you guys provided that yet, or is there anything in talks of that, or do I just have to put a prompt in and then put in the crew myself, or do you guys provide all that stuff?
So we're doing one step further. We're giving you templates, full templates that you can customize if you want to, that are already ready. And then on the UI that you can view the crew yourself, you're basically viewing over text. So you can have someone from so the way that happens business-wise with us is usually because open source is our main distribution channel, company comes to us with a very custom use case. They have a very custom use case they want to do, usually involves engineering, and they want to do it. They can't do that with something that is out there. But then once they're in, then you have someone from marketing. I want to create a crew. So because they can do it over text now, and they don't need to have any technical knowledge, they can put one of those pretty quickly together without thinking about it too much.
It's awesome because we're working on something that's very similar. It's called Bubble GPT, and I'm seeing how far you are with this. So I want to have a conversation. But one of the other questions is, will you actually sell at some point different agent crews or stuff like that, or for certain marketing practices? Will you actually sell those?
There is a play of a marketplace, but it's less about us making money. It's about the community. The community can put together a crew, and then they can offer that on our platform and make money out of it. So
that's the play. That's what I was alluding to that. That's perfect. That's great, man. I love it.
There's someone right in the back there has been hands up for a while.
So I was hoping you could go more into the. All right.
try to speak loud enough so people can hear. Something you could go more into the memory. Something that we're facing is what I call amnesia. It seems like every time you ask a question, it doesn't learn. It's very hard to make OpenAI or Claude or any of the popular models actually learn without going and doing fine tuning or something along that line. How are you handling memory to make it get better over time?
So when you think about memory, there's two ways that we're using memory to improve your agents over time. One is the new strength feature that I shipped. The strength feature is more straightforward. It basically creates a file that stores all the feedback that you gave during that execution, and then that is injected into every agent that it runs. So that works flawless. It's so good. The memory, the long-term memory, that's like the self-improvement aspect, we are basically doing a mix of two things. One, it's an internal RAG system. So as Crew finishes executing, it self-critiques everything that it did along the way. It takes all those experiments, it chunks, it embeds them, so the next step that you're processing it can query these embeddings to know what I should have done better. So every time your crew runs, it looks at what was the worst execution. So like what I did that was the worst out there, what I learned to run that I should be doing different. And then it performs now making sure to act on that feedback that it gave itself. So that's high level how the memory feature works. So it's a mixture of RAG, where we have an internal RAG system, and regular like SQL queries on a SQL-like database that you have locally.
Thank you.
No worries. There's a couple. You want to go first? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
My question is about when you actually have these agents or groups of agents, these crews as templates, you also, when you have these crews as templates, you also provide some benchmarks on the costs those crews will incur.
Yes. So it's funny that you mentioned benchmarks. We're going to probably release an open source project, like not a project, but something that we're going to add in the main project is the ability to test this, right? If you look back to what we talked before, like on the past, when you're developing strong typed applications, it's very easy to test them. 2 + 2 is always going to be 4, so you can write a test function for that. But for fuzzy apps, how do you test that? So whenever we're going to cut a new version of OpenAI, of crewAI, one of the things that we do is we have a benchmarking project that executes 150 crews on the old version and then 150 crews on the new version. And it compares all the stats about it. But way beyond like number of tokens and how long it takes to run, all the way to like how many tools we're using, how many delegations or questions were made to each other, and also how good the quality of the result actually is. Because the way that we set up Crew, we are very opinionated on how you create these agents. So whenever you create a task for an agent, we force you to say what is the expected output. And because you do that, we can now leverage that to compare with the result that you actually got. And say like, what I got, is that actually what I expected? So you can actually run a test for that. And then these tests are going to be different from like the unit tests that we are using to in regular programming. They're going to be around thresholds. So you can say like, hey, if the quality of my responses deviates 20%, that task passes. If it goes beyond that, then this task breaks and I need to take action on that. So that allows you to go even further. For example, with 2 lines, replace your agents that are using OpenAI to use Claude and see like, does it make it better? Does it make it worse? And you can make like an informed decision on that. So that's like some of the benchmarking features. I think like your hands are first, and then you and you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, question for like founders, and this is like a new mental model to think through. You mentioned you were using your first crew as a marketing crew. How many marketing human staff do you have, and how should companies think about creating their organization, embedding these agents that were to outcompete and be leading in their industry?
Yeah. So this is funny. We're definitely doubling down in dog fooding a lot. So right now we have 0 marketing people with 0 sales people because we are using crews for a lot of that. So to help with email, with qualification, with marketing campaigns and all that, we have that running like 24/7. So a lot of the work that we do is engineering, it's crew engineering. And the one thing that engineers love they don't need to write the docs. They love that use case, right? So yeah, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I have two questions. The first one is, I know you're very active on X. So do you have the crews help you? Because you have a very active account. Are you getting any help from the crews?
I gotta say, Axe is the only thing that is untouched.
Yeah.
That's through me. That's
Yeah.
Email, I don't promise anything.
Yeah.
Axe is all me. For sure.
And I hope you're getting enough sleep, because I see your shipping code at all hours of the day.
I gotta say, my mind doesn't that bad. I'm not sleeping much. Yeah, I don't sleep much. But hey, I got a lot of joy in it, so that's what I signed up for. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, my second question is, like in the next 12 months, we're going to see more models like GPT-5 and others coming out. What impact do you think it will have on the crews, like the way they're running, whether it's more reliable, like kind of what are your thoughts in terms of the impact it will have on kind of the types of either use cases you can build with crews or the way the crews like orchestrate amongst themselves?
Yeah, I think you got a very good point. So what he asked is like, as these new models come out, how do you think that's going to impact everything that we discussed about? Sam Altman, I think, said once, like, you should be building companies for the future, not right now. And I agree with him. I think you should be building companies for the future. I think as new models comes up, things are going to get way better. You're going to have even more use cases that you can do with multi-agents. And I think the fact that we are positioned as a universal platform where you can use any LLM, I think that is a very much an unfair advantage for the way that we are playing this. Because I don't know if folks remember, but like Bloomberg back in like 3.5 launch, they spent millions of dollars fine-tuning GPT 3.5, and that worked out great.
Yeah.
The GPT-4 came along, it was better, and like they basically threw that out. So when using like a platform like us, you can basically say like, you know what, like Anthropic released a new model, and that's pretty good. I wanted my agents to be using that. And we offer the ability for you to control what LLMs you use per agent. So you can say like, you know what, the research agent, I wanted it to use a cheap model, a geometry model running on Hugging Face. And the one that does an analysis, I want to use the new Claude model because I think that's pretty good. And then for the one that writes the content, and this is actually what we did. So the final agent that wrote the content was a fine-tuned model to sound like we do, that we fine-tuned on the way that we wrote things. And it's very funny how we did this. So, sorry, just at the tangential, because I think this is very curious. So we got content that we actually wrote, so that this is us, right? And now we go into GPT and say, rewrite this, but soulless, like how you would write it. And now we get like what GPT would spit out. And then what we did is just flip it around, and I fine-tuned the model on that. Like, hey, when I send you the soulless version, I wanted to write this. And then we got this model to write exactly like we did, and then you can plug that into an agent. And now this agent writes like you. So this is one of the things that we did there that was pretty good. But yeah, I think new models are definitely better. I'm curious about the new models, what they're going to come. I would love to have some inside information. Cool thing, and I got to brag about this real quick because this is so cool. I'm meeting with Sam Altman in August 1st. If I hear anything, I'll let you know.
That's amazing.
And there's someone else with like some questions I got. Or is that it? There's one extra one, and then we're done.
So I would love to hear, as a software engineer, like what use cases you see for that being built on crewAI, like in like software architecture, that kind of stuff.
I gotta say, I built one crew that was specifically for software engineering, and that was before I actually started Crew as a company, but I already had Crew as the open source project. I was like, damn, I have so many ideas. For example, this marketing crew, that could be a project, but then like once that you have the crew, to have a project, you have to have a landing page and all that. So I built a crew that built landing pages. I could say like, hey, I have a marketing automation that creates posts, build me a landing page. And that would basically use Tailwind templates and put it together and create a copy and all that. And that was pretty interesting. I think it's a very interesting use case. I think it's a very hard problem though. I think there's people that are going to be better equipped to do that. I don't think it's the kind of crew that I would do because of how much time I need to spend on this. But I think it's very feasible. There's people in community that put some together, but yeah, probably not something that we're going to build ourselves. If someone do it, we're going to use it for sure. All right, folks, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is amazing.
Amazing, everyone. Amazing. Thank you so much for the presentation. I know everyone enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Did everyone else here learn a lot too?
Yeah.
Amazing. Every week we do this here at GPTuesday, and we are so proud to have been able to put this together with Miami AI Hub too. Let's give a shout out for Miami AI Hub. So, without further ado, I just want to give a last few housekeeping items. We have some great food in the back of pizza. We have a lot of drinks as well, so feel free to enjoy yourself after this. We also have a really great speaker next week. We have Jen. She is, works at Microsoft as an Azure team for open AI integration. So it's going to be a really great one next week too. So if you all want to come by, you know where to go.
Yeah.
Let's give a shout out to him.
Yeah.
I like how engaging it is.
I mean, I try.
Few things. We do have parking validation. Be sure to grab one of those. Couple of you guys, and let me just, yeah, so we also have a Telegram community group. We'll go ahead and post that up on the wall here. Rather on the screen here. And what we're doing is create a community group of all the AI community here in Miami. So feel free to chat there anytime, ask any questions.
Your mic
is absolutely phenomenal.
Your mic is off.
Oh, the mic is off.
No.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, but it sounds very low. But that's better. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And let's see. I think Ryan, you want to say something?
Yeah. Guys, for the parking validation, you take the ticket from the front desk, and you go down to the exit parking garage, put your ticket in that you got when you came in, then the parking validation, and then your credit card. That'll take it down to $10.
Great. And if everyone, we can just tag GPTuesday and Miami AI Hub on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, anywhere you can find it. All of us are great help. Really appreciate that. Oh, and the Hub. Never forget the Hub. Never forget the Hub. Our pivotal and very amazing partner over here at GPTuesday. And again, thank you to Miami AI Hub as well. They were working very closely with us, and they're our greatest AI ally, community ally. So thank you again. And last thing is, we're also having a party this Friday.
Woo!
Yeah. Everyone join in Winwood. Rooftop party. So feel free to message me. Just talk to me after. I'll get you that invite article. There's a max occupancy of 75 people, so first come, first serve. Oh yeah, so it's part of the GPTuesday anniversary. So we had our anniversary. We had our award ceremony here. We're so grateful to have that for 1 year. 1 year every single year. We had that right here. We did the award ceremony, and now we're going to do a bit of an after party. So feel free to swing by, and we'd love to have you. And without further ado, let's get networking and just get to know each other. Woo!
Hey everybody, can you guys come to the front for a picture before you guys leave? Please and thank you.
Using with agents, we're using like single there's a bunch of different APIs. So for SMS, 6 or 8 different
Do you guys mind going on the front for a picture?
it's first off, when it starts over, the thing has it's easy every time. So come back again, it doesn't remember the call before, so we're going to have to feed all that data back in. We're working on that right now. It's supposed to remember everything, right? You want it to remember everything. So we have a whole system set up, transfer of everything, all there.